With just 2 more days to the start of week 0 of college football and just 10 more days until every team pretty much has played a game of football, we're going to start breaking down individually the SEC's win totals. And we're going to start with the Georgia Bulldogs, which sits at 10.5 wins. Now, I think everyone's initially going to look at this and say 12 game schedule, right? Regular season. And say 10.5. Like, there's no way Georgia loses 2 games. And I listen, I'm going to side with Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs. The thing is, I will push back. Listen, I think that Clemson game is going to be tougher than people realize because it's the first game of the season. And then they also have 3 games on the road against top 6 opponents in Ole Miss, Alabama, and Texas. So it's not going to just be a walkthrough, because then you do have the rest of your SEC. You do have your Tennessees. Like, you have to avoid landmines in the SEC every single week. Something that Georgia has
Tennessee
done.
couldn't blow somebody's toe off.
I agree. I'm just saying, it's not free games left and right like it has been in the past. But I am going to go over here. The one question I have for the Georgia Bulldogs is who replaces Brock Bowers, who replaces Ladd McConkey, who replaces Ra Thomas in that receiving production, because as good as Carson Beck is, they did have problems moving the ball, particularly on the road against good defense. Think back to Alabama in the SEC championship. Think back to Auburn in that game in Jordan-Hare Stadium. And they weren't this high-flying, dominant offense. Now, they have a great defense. It's not as good as it once was back in 2021 and 22. But I'm wondering, can they reload like they do all the time at Georgia and be good enough offensively to go 12-0 like I expect them to? And because you get the one game that they could potentially lose, I like the over.
I love the over. I mean, Clemson, it's a 2-touchdown game. It might be 28, a 28-point game. I mean, Clemson's not on Georgia's level in any capacity. Dabo Swinney's dead. I've declared it. And you're telling me all they have to do is win 2 of Texas, Ole Miss, Alabama? I mean, that's as good of a lock as you could, in my eyes. And the only reason and this shouldn't count. It does count because money is money and bets are bets. But if Carson Beck goes down for any amount of time, and that's the only reason I don't see Georgia running the table, because I don't think that Ole Miss, and you ever been to that stadium? If you're listening to this, you can hear a pin drop in it. And now, the Ole Miss Rebs, they might get up for that game because it is a Georgia Bulldog. Doesn't happen a lot, but it's not Death Valley. It's not Death Valley. Bryant-Denny is what you should be more scared of. Texas Memorial wasn't that scary when LSU went there, in my opinion. So I think
it'll be different for Georgia.
I do think when you get up, it's going to be different. But I'm telling you right now, Bryant-Denny and Alabama is the one game that I think Georgia should really be looking at. Because, one, they have a roster that can go toe-to-toe with Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Georgia, anybody. And that fan base is going to be hungrier than they have been in the past under Kalen DeBoer. Now, what does benefit Georgia, in my opinion, is that game is early. Alabama may be still figuring themselves out, similar to last year under Saban. Saban's team evolved throughout the year. The team that Texas beat early in the season, Georgia would have steamrolled. And then that Alabama team that beat Georgia in the SEC championship is completely different. Oscar Delp is a 5-star tight end. You still got Lovett. You still got some of these guys. I'm not worried about the offense or anything like that. What I think could potentially be worrisome is just going into a raucous environment like Bryant-Denny is going to be. I'm not worried about Ole Miss. I think they're going to push them around. I don't care what these transfer portal defensive tackles did. I think Georgia and the over is as good of a lock. So you pretty much have to go 1-1 against Alabama and Texas. And I think they do that easily. They're going to be favored in both of those games.
Yeah,
on the road.
They're going to be favored in every single game this season. There's no doubt about that. And that's why I do like it. And I'm trusting a lot in Kirby Smart here.
Yeah, he's the best coach in the country.
Yeah, and I think that's the best thing to do. Yep. Just when it comes down to it, will this team lose 2 games? Do I think a Kirby Smart team that has the most talent in the country will lose 2 games? And the answer to that is no. Do I think the potential is there for them to lose 2 games? Yes, because I do think the talent gap across the national, or not the National Football League, NCAA has closed considerably. I do think you do have a lot of tough games on the schedule, especially with 3 of them coming on the road, and then a tough one to open the season, which you never know how teams can open. But I'm putting my faith in Kirby Smart.
It's a good place to do it.
Yeah, and figuring out the talent and them not losing more than a game. But I do think, if you didn't want to bet this one, I don't blame you for not wanting to bet this one at over 10.5 wins.